Maniacs, I have had an idea. Every Sunday, I'll be posting a true crime or serial killer related video and discussing it with all of you. So it doesn't. I'm not sure if I'll be doing polls to like debate who I'm going to focus on that week or whatnot. It's just going to be a different video each Sunday. So if you like that idea, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Today, we are going to be watching a small video. John Wayne Gacy's sister speak out about John Wayne Gacy. This is on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Okay, and also, I normally don't associate serial killers with their families. I kind of criticize and look at the individuals separately. So just because this is John Wayne Gacy's sister, that does not automatically mean I'm going to like tarnish her name just because her brother was a psychopath. Just want to keep that out there. Just throw that out there. Unfortunately, even the families who are related to these people are tremendously hurt and just betrayed by these kind of things. So I just want to say that I'm going to show my utmost respect to the sister. I'm sure she was probably just stunned, shocked, and sickened by what her brother did.
In 1978, Chicago police found the remains of at least 27 bodies buried beneath John Wayne Gacy's house. To this day, Gacy is one of America's most notorious serial killers.
Fuck that smile.
Killing 33 young men and boys. His sister Karen visited him fairly regularly before his arrest. Did you ever notice a foul odor or anything suspicious at the house?
Well, when they first moved in, there was always this kind of musty smell. It was a real dark type house, and it was always musty smelling.
So when he was first arrested, did you believe that he was capable of killing all of those boys and young men?
No.
No,
I couldn't believe it the night I got the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was Sam Amoranti, his attorney, that called me.
Before she goes really into it, you gotta think about this too. It's like you wouldn't know, most of these people, and John Wayne Gacy specifically, was a very much people's person. He presented himself as if he was like a really good guy to a lot of people. Kind of like the whole Chris Watts situation, right? Where we were just talking about Chris Watts. John Wayne Gacy was one of those originators. Ted Bundy, same deal. They come off like these really nice guys. John Wayne Gacy, I'm pretty sure, was really into politics from what I can remember. I mean, always at rallies and always talking and always being friends with everybody. Nobody would have suspected him to be this kind of monster. So yeah, I mean, he went to children's birthday parties dressed as clowns, making everybody happy and stuff. That's just what the kind of person he was, or at least he portrayed to everybody around him, to hide the bigger secret, which again is a terrifying thing.
And he said, we have John, and he's been arrested. And I said, can I talk to him? And he said, yes. And he put him on the phone. I said, John, did you do this? And not very audible, but he said, yeah. I was in shock. I just sat there and didn't know what to do. My husband was standing there by that time just looking at me. And we cried and we hugged, and neither of us could believe it because it wasn't the person we knew. He was always good and kind and always taking care of us. It was just hard.
John Wayne Gacy confessed to police and later recanted, maintaining that he was innocent until his execution.
That's kind of crazy that he actually said to his sister that he did do it, especially word to the public. He was telling everybody that he didn't do it. Obviously caught in like so many lies and, full of shit. The guy was extremely evil, extremely evil. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew exactly how to manipulate and turn. He was fucked. John Wayne Gacy is one of the scariest serial killers I could think of. He was a sneaky bastard. Yeah, he was a sneaky bastard.
But he told you he did it.
Yes.
He told you he did it.
I was in the jail with him, visiting him when he was here at Cook County. And when I was in there was an article in the paper with many faces of the boys. And I asked him, I said, how could you not know these boys? They found these boys under our house. Well, it wasn't my house, but my mother's and his. Mm-hmm. I said, how could you not know? And he didn't really answer, and he said, I'm just really not guilty of all of them. And I said, all of them? Does that mean any of them? And well, maybe one or two. And I said, then you're guilty of all, because you can't kill one and not be guilty. You're guilty of all. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was angry. I was so angry for what he had done to my family, our children, everything.
Tarnished
It
your
was
name,
just,
yeah.
very upsetting. I guess at that point I could have just socked him because of the way he was. It was something I didn't know about him.
So when he was a little boy, did he kill animals?
No, no.
All the things that we hear about the
No.
traits of serial killers?
Nothing like that. Hey, we had a couple of dogs. He was good to them, played with them, walked them. Never any kind of signs of trying to hurt somebody.
Do you think that he was trying to hide his homosexuality or bisexuality?
Well, there was a time in Iowa that my husband and I, with our oldest daughter, visited, and we'd gone out with them. And when we were at this function, he said, "Now, don't get upset if we don't go home with each other." Sure enough, this other couple that was at our table, the man went home with us, with her, and he went off with the wife. And it was the last time I ever stepped foot in their house again, because I said, "What in the world is going on here?" And I asked him later about it, and he said, "Well, it's nothing big, you know." But I never knew anything about him with a bisexual or sexual
With
nature,
other
being
men.
gay. Yeah.
Well, what
I
did
never
you
knew.
think, and what did the family think when he was first accused and went to jail, was sentenced to 10 years, only served 18 months for sodomy of a 15-year-old boy?
Well, he said it was consensual. You know, I guess back then I never even thought too much about it, except later my mom told me that as a child he had been molested. And, you know, I don't want to say that
Was an
excuses
excuse.
anything he did, but I never knew that part about it. And I don't know if she was trying to make an excuse as to why this happened.
Lots of people. If
whatever.
everybody who was molested ended up killing people and putting them in their crawl space, we wouldn't have a world.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Karen was with John.
No, John was just a bit more than just the average, victim. He was definitely just more. Oprah made a good point right there. Yeah, it definitely is not. And I'm not gonna say that his sister was making that excuse or the mom was making that excuse, even knowing one of the things that a parent I think does, and something I have seen that has reoccurred with these kind of stories, is that the parent will always blame themselves or blame others for why their kid might have turned out that way. And like, for example, like, remember the Jeffrey Dahmer show? I'm not sure if that was really what really happened with the father and him, but the father started blaming himself and how he should have been there for him more. He should not have shown him this. He should not have done that. And I think that is, again, a reoccurring thing with a bunch of serial killers, is that the parents will always look and say, there was that, though. There was that time that happened. What if that, like, triggered something? And they'll always do that. And you can't blame them. I mean, at the end of the day, they are their children, regardless of what you think of that person. It is that person's children, and they're always going to have that mindset, like, where did I go wrong? It's just something that we can't control, unfortunately. But, like, and it's understandable too. I mean, I don't know. If I was in those shoes, I probably would have started saying the same shit. Like, that one time, what were we thinking? Like, maybe we should have just not have gone to there. Maybe we should have just stayed away, or coming up with all these excuses. This is back in 2010 too. This was about 13 years ago when this interview was filmed. Wow.
Hours before his execution. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Leaving the prison and looking back, knowing I'd never see him again, was really, really hard. The whole situation was a nightmare. You could hear a lot of the chanting of people that had already gathered. And I happened to see one of the interviews taking place, and I saw it on the news that night, and it was one of the prosecutors saying that it was the greatest day in the world. And it was really one of the worst days in the world for me. After John's execution, there was no one that ever called me to say, "I'm sorry for your loss."
Did you spend the last day before he was executed with John Wayne Gacy?
I did. And
at the end of the day, like, that is heartbreaking, and I do feel actual sympathy for the family, John's family. I really do. I actually feel, oh my God, I could not imagine going through that. But at the end of the day, I also can't blame anybody for not calling them and saying anything to them. I feel like it would have made it worse, in a sense. Is that crazy of me to say? Like, imagine getting a phone call after your son, who was a murderer, gets executed, and people are saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss," and things like that. So sorry for your loss. Some people might even take that as an insult. Some of them might actually, like, "Are you making fun of us? Are you, like, insulting us? Like is that sarcasm? And it's one of those things where it's like, because how can you, feel sorrow for, or show any sort of empathy towards somebody who was just an animal and a complete monster? Separating the family, obviously, we don't want to, involve the family with this single person who obviously brought it upon themselves. But that is heartbreaking to hear. I actually am like very sorry to hear that nobody like tried to reach out to you and say that, we're so sorry that this person did this to your family. And I'm sure they get it. I'm sure at the end of the day, some people might have told them that. There's no question in my mind, because I think there are people out there who genuinely, they see the difference. They don't associate the family with the person, and they can say to them clear as day that we're so sorry that he did this to your family. Because, again, the family, John's family themselves are victims of this. Their lives and their name was tarnished. Like, oh, you're John Wayne Gacy's sister, aren't you? And oh my God, yes, I am. That's horrible. That is just horrible to go through.
That like, or what was that like?
It was like he was at peace about it. I had said to him, I said, you'll never walk out of prison, never. And he said, if I have to live in prison for the rest of my life, I'd rather be dead.
So when was this picture taken?
This was hours before he was transferred.
To be executed?
Yes. And a lot of people would probably think, looking at that photo, that, how could you be hugging him or whatever, but he was my brother. I didn't ever know the evil part of him.
Do you think differently about him now?
I don't like that part of him. I hate that part of him. And I had always said to my husband and my family that if any appeal ever worked, I'd see to it that he never walked the face of the earth again.
Yeah. Did you ever talk to any of the victims' families?
No, the attorneys wouldn't allow us to. They said that it's like admitting that that he is guilty.
Is that one of the things you regret?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I understand you just told your boss last week that who your brother was.
I did. See, the name Gacy has been buried. My sister has passed away a few years ago. Her husband wouldn't even use her maiden name on her death certificate. I've never given my maiden name out. The people, my neighbors, are now, if they watch Oprah, are going to find out who I really am. After 31 years of living in a closet, not being able to talk about.
I don't think she was meaning that as like she doesn't give a shit, but that's just how it felt like. I don't think Oprah was really concerned about how people were going to view her once she left the studio, right? Most of these giant stars and TV show hosts, all they cared about is the numbers going up, and getting John Wayne Gacy's sister on your show is probably going to be pretty big. I'm not saying that's the kind of person Oprah is, but that wouldn't surprise me.
About John or anybody, and there was a couple of times I haven't even told anybody I had a brother. Because I didn't want that part of my life known. I wanted my children to have a normal life, my grandchildren to have a normal life, and you can't have that.
What's the last thing your brother said to you or you said to him?
I told him I loved him, and I told him that I forgave him for the stuff that he, not the crime, I could never forget the crime, but for what we were put through.
Wow.
You can't blame her. You can't blame her for trying to still be nice to her brother, even on death row. Like, you still can't blame her. It's at the end of the day, it's still her family, regardless of the monster that he fucking was. I certainly, on the outside, I certainly wouldn't be praising the guy, obviously. Most people weren't. It's always weird watching these family members talk about their relatives that were serial killers and how they actually truly just, at the end of the day, like, they're not going to feel the way that most of the people felt, because that is their family. That is still their relative. It's like, I'm not saying that in the defense of John Wayne Gacy. I'm saying that in the defense of the family. The Jeffrey Dahmer thing, where it was Lionel Dahmer talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. And I think it was Dr. Phil who asked him, do you still love him? And he goes and says, of course I love him. He's my son. I'm not going to sit here and tell him you can't love your own son. And I can't like sit here and tell you what I think it would be like to be in that situation, because I really pray to God I never have to be in that situation. That if I ever have a kid one day, I'm never going to have to sit there and ask questions, get asked questions. Do you still love him? So no, I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and like put the pressure down on them and make them feel like shit because of some horrible fucking thing that was out of their complete control. Guys, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. If you have any more recommendations, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll check you guys out in the next video. Keep it retro. Do take care.